Hello, those who have joined us so far. We are just going to wait another minute and a half for everyone else to catch up here. I have everyone muted so far, and I'm sure since we're 3 months in, everyone is aware if you disable your video, whatever bandwidth you have may help in terms of like skipping and pausing and Lori in dramatic moments that were meant to be dramatic. So if you do not care to have people see you, feel free to just go dark. That's totally fine. All right, we'll just give it a little bit longer. Everyone's looks like they're joining and things are going well. Okay. We got 13 on, and so everyone might have noticed, if not you will, 14, we're gonna have people join us as we get started, I think. If you haven't already noticed, this is going to be a shorter webinar discussion with Lori from the 4-Acre Group. We wanted to just kind of, this is all information we've already heard and know, but with a different lens this year, a lot of different things going on. So, and a lot of shifting in the timeline. And so there's certainly pertinent new information that might be helpful to you. Housekeeping really quick before I forget, I have everyone muted. When you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box, and that should be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. There should be 3 dots or some more menu, and you're going to hit chat. We're going to collect those as we go, and then when we get to a point where we can answer those in Lori's conversation here, I'll ask them for you. If we don't get to them in time, again, a short webinar today, I will do my best to get those to Lori, and she will do her best to answer them. Everyone's very busy, so give us some grace. And then we'll get those posted and emailed out to the group that has registered for this webinar. So everyone should know me. I am Jessie Lavoie. I'm the Pick Click Give Program Manager at the Alaska Community Foundation. And with us again, Lori Wolf with the 4-Acre Group. Thank you again for joining us and showing the Pick Click Give spirit. If no one's noticed her background, that is the Pick Click Give logo. So we wanted to have a conversation, and this is something some of you might be new, and some of you it might be it's just that time of year again. We have lists. What do we do with them? And so we got our first list, our pledge list. That was emailed out last month to all of you, the contacts on those Pick Click Give profiles. The differences this year, shortly after that, the governor announced that the PFD would be paid out in July instead of in October. Not an unreasonable request or action this time of year, given everything that's going on. So we were able to adjust the deadline the best that we could. So instead of the pledge deadline, which was always August 31st, it is now June 17th. So we have just shy of a couple of weeks to get pledges in. As of today, you all have raised just over 2.9 million, so $2,929,000, which is just right on par with last year as a whole. So that is some pretty remarkable fundraising on your part, given everything that's going on. And so some of the questions I've already gotten, just in general, as we kind of shifted things, is one is the new pledge deadline. We know that's June 17th, so in a couple of weeks. And the PFD will not be paid out on July 1st. And so the PFD division is hard to work on that. Then after that, the biggest question is, when are we going to see donor lists and donor dollars? And so that all has moved up as well. There are a lot of organizations, including the PFD division and ACF, are under a lot of stress with a lot of different balls in the air. So we are hoping to get those donations out to you no later than September 15th. So still early in October, a little later than we want it, but we're working on it. We're hoping to get it out sooner. We'll get those donor lists out sooner, but ultimately they're going to be probably pretty close to the pledge list, the information that you have now. So, and then after that, the timeline starts over again in January 1st, 2021. There is discussion of a second PFD in October. Dunleavy has been pushing that, and we don't know what that will look like. We don't know if that will go through. We don't know if they're willing to have the discussion, and we do not know what Pick Click Give will look like as well. So we're going to operate as if this is our season, and we will be done after this PFD payout on July 1st. If something changes and the PFD division feels that we need to include Pick Click Give, or that we can, we'll work with them and we'll communicate to you on what that looks like. But right now we're just moving up the timeline and kind of getting the season done early. With that, I think I'm gonna pass it over to Lori. Like I said, put those questions into the chat box, we'll collect them. She'll stop, ask me what's going on, and we'll go from there. Lori, take it away.
Great, thank you so much, Jessie. I really appreciate all the work you're doing. I know you're working triple time, trying to keep up to all the things that are going on in the midst of working remotely. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I know you're fielding phone calls every day. So I'll just say out to everyone, we want to get your questions answered today, and know that you always have you have great access. And Jessie, she's really on point to get you get your questions answered. So it's been lovely to work together, and we don't have a ton of time, so I'll get right to it. And then again, we'll make some space for questions. I know one of the questions one of you is going to ask is, can I have these slides when we're done? And the answer is yes, of course you can. And we are also recording this, and we'll make that available as well through the Pick Click Give channel. So I'll just want to start off by just reminding us, right? Sometimes we just need to be reminded, right? We have core values, and we need to stay values driven, and never, don't let our current crisis get in our way. Don't let a pandemic get in our way. Lead with our values, and no better place than to put our values front and center in our work than in our donor communication, both as we are seeking new donors and retaining those that are investing in our missions. We all know, of course, the holy grail in fund development is donor retention. And so part of donor retention, a huge part of donor retention, is trust. And so how do we build trust? We lead with our values. And so just saying out loud, clear as we can, in all the messages that you're putting out, in all the ways that you're putting those messages out, please connect your values to your donor values, and find those amazing connections. Make sure you're using them in the way that you tell your story. Make sure that you're using them in the way that you present yourself and your organization, but also inviting and engaging your donors to share their values as well. So that is just a really important piece in all the ways that you're communicating. So all of you, you have your list now. I know at Voiker we have our list, and you have your list. And for some of you, for all of you, we want you to look at your list. I want you to take it out and stare at it, and remember, right, that there's no one size fits all to the next set of steps. And the way that we start and live that no one size fits all is that we look at the list itself. And what are you looking for when you look at that list? You're looking for asking yourself, well, who are the people on this list? Are they renewing donors? Are they, what we say in the development world, are they upgrading, meaning they've been giving you $25 year after year after year, and now they're giving 50 or 100 or 1,000? Like who are they, and how are they showing up in your life? Are they brand new? Do you even know who they are, right? And so you're asking yourself, are they renewing? Are they upgrading? Are they new? What do you know about them? You're comparing them to the list that you have in your life. Maybe you actually have that wonderful donor database that we all wish you all had. And so you're doing some comparison. Maybe you're using an Excel spreadsheet or 3x5 cards in a recipe box. You're all in a different place in this process. So whatever that is, you're sorting and matching and trying to figure it out. The next question you're asking is, what do they need and want to know from you right now? And the number one thing that they need to know from you is that you're receiving their money, right? This is how we build trust in this whole process. So you're not just building trust in your own organization, you're building trust in the process, you're building trust in this vehicle called Pick Click Give, and you're building trust overall in philanthropy, that when people make choices about the things that they care about, that money actually goes to the thing that they care about. And so your ability to convey that, and also to convey to people what's going on for you right now. Don't be tone deaf to what is happening right now in our country and in our world. And so be reflective about your mission in light of what is going on. Maybe your physical doors have been closed, but you haven't missed a beat in mission. Maybe your mission has had to greatly adapt or greatly change. Maybe maybe you've had to, ramp up services at tenfold because of the increase in your request for services. Maybe lots of things. So be clear about what's going on right now. Be clear and connected. Remember that most of these donors, when they gave this gift, COVID wasn't a thing, or at least it wasn't a thing for them. It may have been something that you were starting to think about, but it might have not been a thing that they were thinking about. So be clear with them and be relevant to the conversation that we're all having around this country right now and around Alaska. And then asking yourself, what do they need or want from you to be connected, right? Physical connection, not really possible right now, right? We're not throwing big parties. We're not having cups of coffee with people for the most part. And so how is it that we're using and being creative about how we get connected to people? I have talked to a lot of people recently, and they are just using this time to just call their donors, and they are having really beautiful, connected conversations with donors. Or I have other groups who are just calling and saying thank you into people's voicemail. Whatever that is for you, whatever that looks like for you, maybe your list is so grand and so big that calling is not really a possibility. And so you're doing email or you're doing other things. I would keep kind of the bigger responses, the social media where you're not really sure you're going to connect with those folks. I mean, I would keep that as a strategy, but I really want to encourage you to go one-to-one as much as you can. And this is a lovely way to engage your board and your other volunteer team, maybe some volunteers who are used to being all hands-on, but they can't really be hands-on for you. Give them a phone list, tell them how to pronounce people's names, and send them to be wonderful ambassadors, right? No speech reading, just pure joy from the heart. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Really invite and engage the donor in to tell their story about what matters to them and why they gave, right? Do what feels good. What really feels good for you. What do you need right now? You're a good judge about, how people are feeling in the world. Everybody's moving through this time really differently, but also, right, you want to be able to bring your own joy to this process. So don't do something that feels not quite right for you. Maybe that's something that someone else would do on the team. So you're not a phone person, you're an email person. Maybe find the other person on the team who's a phone. Other quick actions you can take right now: get those names in that database. Again, kind of figuring out what are you learning about their who they are, what their process is. Figuring out who else you want to share that information with. Maybe you're really noticing there's a trend, right? That maybe it's the people that you've been serving are actually turning around and becoming your donors, right? Don't forget to share that with your direct service folks on the team, right? That's amazing and wonderful and something to be celebrated. So, find the moments to celebrate, find the moments to connect. And then again, just that reminder, scan the list, really asking yourself, what do you know about these folks? And what do you want to do as a result of what you know? So much more to say about that, but we'll save that for the questions that you've got. And so then I'll just remind you, I've kind of got a top 10. And I'd say, these are good reminders just in general about fund development overall, but for sure around Pick, Click, Give, which is a kind of, critical tool in many of your toolboxes here. And not just now, but also remind you for later, right? These are just good things, right? So again, we say thank you immediately. As fast as we get this list, we should be having a plan to say thank you, right? So sincere, right? We're sincere, we're credible, we're accountable, and we are putting out that acknowledgement as in ways that we have the ability to do. Again, like I know one of the things that's really important to me around a donor recognition is that I'm handwriting notes on recognition letters. And that has become a really complicated process for me right now because I am disconnected from the beautiful printer and the letterhead and the staff who kind of put the stuff together. And so, we're trying to figure out all new ways to do that kind of thing, right? And so I'm trying to send out, the personal thing, and then they're sending out the formal thing, and, we're working it out. But these are different times, and we want to do the things that bring that that beautiful Venn diagram of authenticity, credibility, and accountability all together in our acknowledgement, right? I like to sometimes say, bring your heart and your head to the party, right? So bring it all as you're talking about what's most important. This is a wonderful time to engage the team. Oh my goodness, so many of our team members, they don't really want to do this work called fund development. But gosh, getting involved in recognition is it's a beautiful place to enter into the conversation, because you're asking your team to say thank you, and that's a lovely place to be. And so, this is a time to engage the board. If you haven't engaged them, this can be a lovely time to engage volunteers and other staff members. In the end of the day, right, we're going to be donor focused. Our donor is the most important person in this conversation. And so keeping them in the center of that conversation is really important, right? You're not doing good work and they gave you money. They're not walking ATM machines or walking checkbooks, right? They're real life people who believe in mission. So make sure your language really reflects that, right? Be transformational, not transactional. Meaning, right, again, they're not the ATM machine, right? They didn't just randomly pick, click, and give, right? They did it because their heart told them, like they had to take a purposeful step to find you in a list and pick you out. And so you want to honor that. And you don't want to just go like, hey, thanks so much, form letter kind of stuff. You really want to help them know the difference that the gift is making, right? It is changing lives. It is making Alaska a better place. It is strengthening communities. Like, what is it doing? So be transformational in your language. Be specific. Again, a donor who's somebody who's been participating with you in Pick, Click, Give for a decade should get a different message than the Pick, Click, Give donor who's given for the very first time. So please, use your time at home to segment your list. Know what success really looks like. Again, for many of us, Pick, Click, Give is a place where we get new donors. It's a, if you will, a prospecting exercise where we get new people. And I've seen groups like really go like, that's our definition of success. And so the goal for us is retention of those folks. So they send out welcome packets and they're super celebratory and they're all in, right? And for others, the definition of success is around helping their donors increase the amount of giving. And so they're really focusing the limited ways that they can segment their audience. They're focusing on those donors who have, again, done kind of extra special thing of given an additional gift or an increased gift over last year. So again, know what success looks like, because it will then drive your energy and your team. If you do again, I don't want you to be tone deaf about this time in our history and this time in our lives. And so really, be clear about the difference between crisis and urgency right now. All our communities are in crisis, right? And our organizations have urgency. And finding that right place, that right language to have those conversations, I think are really important. We could spend hours just on this conversation alone. So if you've got questions about that, please ask me. Again, just really focusing on your communication, being clear, being succinct. I like to say, bring the joy, right? This should feel good. It feels good for the donor to give to you, right? No apologies, just bring the joy, right? And again, kind of that ground, I like to say kind of ground in abundance. Right now, when people are scared and there's lots of fear all around us, the tendency can be to go to scarcity. And I just really want you to all lead by example with a model of abundance. And that's abundance around the power of philanthropy. That's abundance around the difference that your missions are making in the world. That's abundance about the power of our communities to move forward together. There's lots of ways to bring abundance in a really authentic way that really speaks to your mission. And again, we're pushing up against the temptation that so many have just kind of naturally in a state of fear to go to scarcity. So, all those ways that you can bring abundance in your language, really, really important. So I could say more about any one of these things, and I'm happy to do that, but I would just like to pause here at this moment and just take some questions, Bessie. And if there's no questions, then I could ramble on about some more of these things. So I think I'll just pause right there and take some questions.
All right, I see none yet, but please, again, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat bar. I have it pulled up, so I will see them. While we were talking about this and kind of just thinking back in my days of being a Pick, Click, Give participant as an organization, never having had to deal with this kind of stuff. Like, we've always had our own, Alaska state issues like wildfires, flooding, kind of the stuff that now I almost say we take for granted. What
Those are different kinds of disasters, right?
different
Like,
kinds of
disasters, right?
right? Oh, it's just Alaska. Now we're like, it's the world. What kind of language would you suggest, Lori, when communicating to donors about this? Because I think a lot of organizations are feeling like they're might be even over communicating. There's a lot of need in the community. There's a lot of unmet need with Alaskans. Should we be more urgent? Should we be more direct? Should we be more sensitive? All of it. What are you thinking with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to give a generic answer to that question, right? And but I will just say some things I'm noticing. Some things I'm noticing is that we have a this kind of nonprofit persona, if you will, that does, that goes something like this. It's not as bad for me as it is for them, even though it's bad. It can't be that. It's not as bad, right? So we're quick to give. We're quick to support others. We're quick to deflect and defer, right? We're not so wonderful at saying why the mission that we're stewarding matters right now, right? So that temptation to deflect and defer means, one of the things that I notice about that is that it means that some organizations are not actually asking for the financial support that they really actually need right now. And that's not really about pick, click, give as much as the larger relief efforts going on at the state and federal level. Just sort of kind of like, well, I'm just not as bad off. I'm making it work. I've downsized. I've done whatever, right? And so I just want to say to everyone, right, like, your mission matters, and your job is to steward that mission. While the structure may change over time, and we are adapting our services, and there's lots of shifting and changing going on, people don't feel apologetic for supporting the thing that they care about, and so we shouldn't be apologetic for talking about it, right? And so, right, none of these conversations start with "I'm sorry," right? They all start with, you care about this thing, and we want to create a pathway for you to show that you care in all the ways that you like to show it. And one of those pathways is through philanthropic charitable giving. Not the only way, but it's one of the ways. So we just want to be mindful of that temptation to not even create the avenue in the first place. But it's too hard, I think, to get more specific, but I would just say we want to be mindful of ourselves. One of the things I also see, I guess I say one more thing. One of the things I often see in our nonprofit board and staff rooms is this kind of well, I can't do it, therefore I shouldn't ask others to do it. And I do appreciate the lead by example and the model behavior we want to see in the world. But what I mean by this more is, we decide for ourselves, we put a value judgment about what a big gift is, what a small gift is, what a big ask is, what a small ask is. And we use that to then decide that for other people. And that's not our job. Right? Our job is to create opportunities that are meaningful and respectful, that have meaning for the people that we're talking to. And we can meet them and model that behavior by showing up and doing what's meaningful and manageable for us. And that's how we're peers. But it's not because we gave the same amount of money. It's not because we asked for the same amount of money, right? We do that based on the person who's in front of us. So you want to match that and really honor the donor in front of you. Don't make decisions for them. Create opportunities for them to make their own decisions. And again, sometimes we just get in our own way about that stuff.
Right. Yeah. We are not our donors, as we've heard time and time again before.
Yeah.
We're not our donors.
Yeah. You should be a donor, but you are also not all your other donors. Yes, exactly. I hope you're all leading by example here, right? But it's not a one-for-one, right? I can ask for $1 million without being $1 million donor, right? As long as I do it respectfully.
Right. Yes. So also I want to just throw this out there, and I think the last year and a half, 2 years, most organizations have heard this, but this is something that both Lori and I have discussed with you all time and time again, and we always try to make sure it's something that we reiterate. While we're talking about pick, click, give, and this is the pick, click, give lens, if your donors do not, especially in this time, like right now with $1,000 PFD paid out early during a pandemic with record high unemployment, it is totally okay if they do not want to pick, click, give and they want to engage you in another way. at ACF and with Pick Click Give, and I know with Lori at Foraker, we are supportive in however that looks. And so while as much as I would love everyone to Pick Click Give, it's not the tool that fits everybody in the donor. So just keep that in mind. Don't feel bad about it. It's something that we strongly encourage. Also something to keep in mind about later as we move into fall in the discussion, hopefully, of a second PAP happens and we're unable to meet that need with the Pick Click Give program, you can still engage those donors outside of the program about their PAP. So
yes,
multiple ways.
I'll just jump in there and just say, right, I just put this slide up because I think this is, we just want to remind ourselves, right, there's no destination to fund development, right? We don't get the gift and go like, woohoo, we're done, right, and walk away. We don't just say thank you and walk away, right? The goal here is, the ultimate goal here is relationship between the donor and the mission. And our job is to be the conduit and the connector to that. And we don't stop talking to our friends when, you know, they don't give us money. We continue to talk to our friends because we're in it for the relationship, right? If one of the things that happens along the way is that in that relationship is that someone gives money, then that's wonderful. But we're not friends with them because of that, right? And maybe that's the thing that got us introduced to one another because they got on our donor list, right? But you stay connected and committed to the relationship. So they stay on your newsletter, you stay committed to them, you stay connected to them. They will, right? If this mission is meaningful for them, they will come back. And I also just want to say, right, in many organizations, we define major donor not by the size of their gift, but the longevity of their giving. And so really thinking about, right, if you've had a 10-year donor through Pick Click Give or any other mechanism, right, any other tool in your toolbox, that donor who's been with you for 10 years or more, they're a major donor for you, even if what they've been doing and because of what they've been doing is giving that $25 to Pick Click Give every year, right? And so really thinking about, like, how do you want to honor that relationship? Maybe they just lost their job. Maybe they've gone in and changed their donation. Maybe they're not going to do it this year. Maybe they won't do it next year. You're still in relationship with them. So I will just emphasize that a lot, right along with you, Jesse. I think these are incredibly challenging times. People are going to show up in lots of different ways than they've shown up before. And our job is to be with them, wherever that is, right? So thanks for mentioning that. It's just a really, it is a really challenging time. I'll just show one more visual that emphasizes that, one more space, which is just that whole notion of no one size fits all, right? So that's how we communicate and how we build relationships and how we ask, but also how we acknowledge. And what you're talking about, so critically important here, because people will, they will make changes. Some will add, some will stop, some will take a pause, some will come back, right? And they also may, right? Pick Click Give might not be the strategy for them right now. Doesn't mean that there isn't 4 other strategies that they might try.
Right, absolutely. So we have just a couple minutes left. You all just must know all the things because there are no questions. So that makes us good. Oh, here we go. Got a question.
There we go.
The list we have are of donors and donations that can change. It seems like we can't assume it's a donation yet. Very good. Yes, you are correct. So there is a pledge list, which is what you have in your hands now. And then there is a donor list, which comes out after the pledge deadline and after the PAP has gone into what they call lockdown. So they get all the processing done. So right now, that information you got a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, is pledge, which means there could be changes that happen between now and June 17th. Absolutely right. What I would suggest, and I think Lori would echo this and she can add a little bit more, is that you communicate to those donors, thank them for their pledge already, and let them know that you still have need and that they can go back in and increase it. This does open the door for them to remove the donation, but we actually don't often see that. It's usually the other way around. So Lori, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, again, no one size fits all. So for some, right, you could engage them. You could actually go back to last year's list and notice who's not on there. And you could do a whole conversation directly to them about helping them know that the list is still open and that they could still participate if that's meaningful for them. You could go in and help people add to their gift. Again, you want to know what your own definitions of success are, especially if you have limited capacity right now and you can't put out 4 different letters or 4 different kinds of communication. Pick the thing that's most important for you around success. So it could be adding, getting people to add, getting people to come back, right? or thanking them and having them and solidify by saying thank you right now, it solidifies that they're not going to change their mind because you've sent out the thank you. Now you're thanking them. I like to say for a promise, because for those of you, instead of a pledge, those of you in an accrual-based accounting system, this is far more than we have time for, but the pledge has a whole sets of implications in accounting land, right? So if you're not in that space, call it a pledge, call it a promise, whatever you need to do. You're not booking it, you're just validating the experience for your donor. And so I think there's no harm, Carrie, I love that you asked that question, because there's no harm right now in just reaching out to people. And again, doing that comparison of those lists right now is a great step. Yeah, so thanks for asking that.
Yeah, that's a great question. If there are no other questions, I think we'll be respectful of people's time and wrap up. Of course, Carrie, you're welcome. Also, just wanted to put it out there because I have gotten a lot of feedback on this. The PFP filing deadline was extended this year. That was also another like rock in the timeline. Everyone needs to remember that all this is legislative statutes. So they changed one piece of the code to allow people who otherwise wouldn't have access to the office, because every public building had shut down at that point, an opportunity to file their PFD. That did not, unfortunately, impact the application season for 2021. So we still had to close things on March 31st, which kind of created some issues for some organizations, and we understand that, and I think we're able to get through most of it. But do keep in mind a lot of the things that this program, the structure that it's around, about those dates, about those deadlines, about what we're asking for is actually written into law, and there's nothing I can do about it. You have to, work with your local representative to incur change. So if you want more information on that, feel free to email me at info@kitclickgive.org. Happy to run through that with you. But that is part of the discussion that's been happening as we go through this rocky new timeline. So.
Jesse, can I say one more thing real quick? I know we're
Absolutely.
right on time here. I know that I forget that sometimes people can be anonymous in these moments, and I forgot to mention that. So anonymous giving is a real part of Pick, Click, Give. People are anonymous for lots of reasons, both purposeful and sometimes accidental. So you want to be mindful of that. Sometimes they didn't mean to do that, and they'll wonder how come you haven't called to say thank you. So I would recommend any of you who have used social media as your platform, or you're using a newsletter still as a platform, to really just do a purposeful shout out to your anonymous donors who participated in Pick, Click, Give. I have some examples. Our friends at Friends of Pets are really wonderful at this. They do this whole shout out in their newsletter to their anonymous donors. And just shout them out and make a point of saying, like if you're accidentally also anonymous, right? We want to know who you are. So I just forgot to mention that, but I just do think we've got some good examples up there, and if you've got questions about that, I'm happy to take those offline.
Yes, absolutely. So every list usually has at least one or two. Alrighty, I see no questions, so thank you everyone for joining us. Lori, thank you again for imparting your wisdom on us, especially in this tough time when things are so uncertain, and for you're particularly dealing with a lot of that stuff for us, and guiding us through this. So thanks again. This will be recorded. We'll post it on the website, but we'll also email it to this group. And again, if you have questions for either Lori or I, you're welcome to email the Forger group. You're welcome to email info@kitclickgive.org, and I can pass it on to whoever needs to be passed on, or try and answer it myself. So everyone have a great rest of your week.